It's a pleasure to see all of you. It's a pleasure to see the candidates. It's a pleasure to see the audience members here. Welcome to our candidates forum for the November 6th election. First, have an announcement. Several of the candidates could not be here. Congressional candidate for the 13th Congressional District, Keith Houston, is not here because he is in trial in a lawsuit. He's a prosecuting attorney in Amarillo. Keith Houston is a Green Party candidate. Also for the same race, 13th Congressional District candidate, Libertarian candidate, John Deek from Denton did not show up. So he's also not here. So for that position, Congressman Mac Thornberry is by himself. He is seated with other gentlemen, but he has no opponents to debate tonight. But we will still ask questions. Also, for the State Senate, District 30, Senator Craig Estes is absent because of a family matter. And Mr. Estes is at a gathering of family members due to a very, very chronic illness of a member of the family and could not be here. His opponent, Mr. Richard Forsyth, Libertarian candidate, is seated in the center there. The State Representative, District 69 candidate, Republican James Frank, is seated to the right. And is here, and we will be speaking with him. His opponent, Libertarian candidate Richard Brown, has said that he has chosen not to participate in a debate. So we have three candidates tonight with no opponents to debate, but
we win.
We will speak with them in any case. We will begin with 3 minutes of opening statements, and let's begin with Mac Thornberry, please.
Thank you, Dr. Prada, and I appreciate the League again hosting this event. I think one has often heard in the past that this is such an important election, et cetera. But honestly, I believe that this year may be as important, at least, as any election during my lifetime when it comes to the course that our country takes in the coming years. In part because I think there's a clear choice before voters 2 weeks from tomorrow. We know the path that President Obama would take the country and has taken the country. No reason to assume that will be different in the future. Governor Romney has tried to lay out an alternative course, but whatever issue one examines, health care bill, if President Obama is reelected, this is the last opportunity to repeal the health care bill, and it will take effect. And once it takes effect, we will all be under it, I think, because it will be hard to backtrack from. Taxes, we're going to have a massive tax increase January 2nd unless something happens to prevent it. We're going to have massive defense cuts January 2nd unless something happens to prevent it. Another 4 years of the same people running the EPA and OSHA and all those regulatory agencies are going to change the country. They're going to change the way a lot of people in our neck of the woods earn their living, I think, permanently. So the choice is clear on which path the country goes, and Americans will determine that choice by their choices at the ballot box on November the 6th. I think we all have a pretty good idea what the problems are. What we don't hear as much about is what the opportunities are. There are a lot of very knowledgeable, unbiased sources, for example, that say we could be energy independent in North America within the decade if we just make the right decisions. There are a lot of folks who know how much capital has been accumulated in business, but they need the government to provide some stability on taxes and regulation and the health care bill before they are willing to invest in another employee or a plant expansion. If they get that, this economy could grow, especially if you add with it the energy potential. But we need the right decisions coming out of Washington. Again, that comes down to the choice that we're all going to make on November 6th. It's very important for us and for our kids that we make the right choice. Thank you.
Thank you. In January, we expect sequestration cuts to many parts of the budget, especially the Department of Defense. If I'm not mistaken, House Bill 6365, the National Security and Job Protection Act that you voted on last month, would have pushed, if the Senate had passed it, would have pushed the president to cancel $109 billion in sequestration cuts to the Department of Defense budget. But of course, the Senate didn't pass it, and the president is not forced to remove sequestration cuts. What will the sequestration mean to the Defense Department and perhaps to Shepherd Air Force Base as well?
Well, if sequestration is allowed to happen on January 2nd, it means every non-exempt program, project, or activity will be cut in equal amount. It's roughly 10%. So the military salaries are exempt, but all the other costs at Shepherd and every other military installation around the country would be cut an arbitrary 10%. As somebody explained it to me, body armor gets cut the same percentage as the grass mowing at the bases. There is no difference between that. Actually, back in the spring, the House passed a bill that would save the same amount of money, but it would target those cuts, especially from programs that have been growing so fast in recent years. And I think that's the right approach. We can't walk away from lowering spending. We can't walk away from the tremendous deficits. And the House has not passed anything that would just say, never mind, we weren't serious about cutting the budget. What we have done, though, is pass a bill that says this is a smart way to cut the budget rather than this mindless across-the-board cuts that would apply to everything good, bad, and ugly equally.
Unemployment in Wichita Falls has dropped a little bit below 7%, which sounds great, except for those people who are still unemployed. How can we grow our economy again in Wichita Falls and in other cities and towns in our district?
Well, one of the most obvious ways we can grow our economy here is in the energy industry. It's been a centerpiece of the Wichita Falls economy. A lot of the people in the energy business are doing well, but talk to them about what they face every day, about the EPA and the trucking regulations and all of the things that are making it hard for them to expand and do what they want to do. If we could just get the government out of the way of energy entrepreneurs in this country, it would make a tremendous difference in jobs, but also in energy production. Build a pipeline from Canada, all of those things that the administration has been stopping. But the rest of the story is, and I've visited lots of small businesses here and around, they need the kind of certainty that I was talking about in order to make investment decisions. There is a fair amount of capital ready to be invested, but you need to know what taxes you're going to pay. You need to know how the health care bill is going to affect you and what that's going to mean to your bottom line. You need to know what the regulators are going to do to you. If we could get some certainty on those things in ways that make sense, I really believe, and the economists support it, that you could see this economy taking off and creating a lot of jobs here and all over the country.
Do you expect that the fiscal year budget for the next fiscal year will look better at some point in the future? In other words, as we have gone through the House and Senate debates, through various financial crises, that the federal budget will not be balanced, but will have less deficit spending.
Well, there's two ways to reduce the deficit, and you have to have them both. One is to control spending, and the other is to grow the economy. And we were just talking about the importance of growing the economy, having tax rates that are competitive not only here but around the world, and having pro-growth policies that get more people working, so more people are paying taxes. In addition to that, you have to control spending. And it's not just the discretionary spending, it is primarily the mandatory spending or entitlements, Medicare, food stamps, et cetera. And there, the House budget has said that people who are on those programs now can keep what they've got, but younger people under the age of 55 are going to have to see some changes in Social Security and Medicare, for example. So the key to reducing the deficit and the debt is hold the line on spending, especially entitlements, which are 2/3 of the budget, but also get that economy growing so more money is coming in.
Do we see any hope in the horizon for veterans' benefits?
Well, most veterans' benefits are exempt from sequestration. So I think that is some good news. I think in the bigger scheme of things, we are continuing to work to make sure that the care and benefits provided to veterans meets the needs, especially of returning veterans. And we're continuing to learn things about post-traumatic stress and the other issues that have particularly affected those veterans that have served us in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think all of the military services are working to try to improve those programs. But we don't know the answers yet. And I think nearly all of us would agree that that is one place where we are not interested in being penny wise and pound foolish. We have a responsibility for those people who have served our nation to do what we promised, but especially on these health care issues, take care of the needs that they come back home with.
My final question is, what foreign policy issue do you see as a #1 priority for the United States?
That's hard to pick one.
Or the top 5.
Okay, thanks. I need a little flexibility here. In a lot of ways, the most dangerous situation is, immediate situation is what's happening in Syria. Because if the Syrian chemical weapons get in the hands of terrorists, it could mean enormous devastation in all sorts of places. And that's a real possibility, and that is incredibly dangerous. Iran and its nuclear program, you know, whatever decision is made, let them build it, try to stop them from building it, is fraught with peril. And so that's #2. A lot of folks think the most dangerous country in the world continues to be Pakistan because it already has nuclear weapons, because it has such an insurgency, including Al-Qaeda, within its borders, and so many committed terrorists committed to overturning that regime. So as you look around the world, there's lots of danger, terrorism in all sorts of places, but I think the top 3 places right now would have to be Syria, Iran, and Pakistan.
Thank you very much. May we have your closing statement, please?
Well, just to summarize, I think there is so much at stake in this election. We've talked some about the economics, about energy. National security is a whole nother area. But a lot of people are frustrated that Congress has been gridlocked over the last 2 years, and it absolutely has. Nobody's been happy or satisfied. In some ways, I think gridlock is better than doing bad things. And what we saw before was a host of measures that I believe were bad for the country. But gridlock is not going to be an option moving ahead. Taxes will go up January 1st unless something happens to prevent it. Defense will be cut January 1st unless something happens to prevent it. So health care will take effect unless something happens to prevent it. So one way or another, a decision is going to be made. But I believe our kids, all of us, will be living with the consequences of those decisions. That's part of the reason I think this is such an important election. And even in Texas, it's really important for everyone to go and make it clear what your preferences are.